the highway haunt. The road stretched out like a black ribbon under the moonless sky. A cold wind whipped through the open window of the old pickup truck, carrying with it the promise of a long, lonely drive. At the wheel was Jack, a weary trucker with eyes that had seen too many miles. Beside him, his faithful dog, Max, curled up on the worn seat, his head resting on Jack's arm. The highway was deserted, save for the occasional flicker of headlights in the distance. It was a world away from the neon-lit cities Jack was used to. This was the heart of nowhere, a place where the only sounds were the hum of the engine and the eerie howl of the wind. As the night wore on, a strange unease crept over Jack. It was a feeling he couldn't shake, a sense of being watched. He glanced in the rearview mirror, but there was nothing there, just the endless stretch of black asphalt. Suddenly, the headlights of a massive truck appeared in the distance. It was moving fast, far too fast for the deserted road. As it drew closer, Jack could see the truck was unlike any he had ever seen. It was a behemoth of metal, with a menacing shape that seemed to distort the night. The truck roared past, its engine a deafening roar that shook the ground. But as it passed, something strange happened. Jack saw a reflection in the truck's chrome bumper, a face, twisted and grotesque, with eyes that burned like hellfire. Fear gripped Jack's heart. He slammed on the brakes, his mind racing. What he had seen was impossible, a figment of his tired imagination. But the image of that face was burned into his mind. He tried to shake off the fear, to focus on the road ahead. But the image of the truck haunted him. Every shadow, every curve in the road seemed to take on a sinister shape. As dawn approached, the sky began to lighten. The world took on a more familiar appearance. Jack felt a sense of relief. Maybe it had all been a dream, a trick of the light. But then he saw it. In the distance, a cloud of smoke rose from the side of the road. Car was engulfed in flames. As he drew closer, he saw something that made his blood run cold. There, in the wreckage, was a body, charred beyond recognition. But there was something else, something that made the hair stand on the back of Jack's neck. A piece of chrome, twisted and broken, bore the same grotesque face he had seen in the headlights of the monster truck. Terror seized Jack. He knew then that what he had encountered was no ordinary vehicle. It was something evil, something that preyed on the lonely souls of the night. He had to escape. He turned his truck around and raced away from the scene of the accident. But the monster truck was behind him, its headlights cutting through the morning mist like the eyes of a predator. A high-speed chase ensued, a battle between man and machine. Jack weaved in and out of traffic, dodging oncoming cars, desperate to put distance between himself and the terror behind him. The chase took them through small towns and sprawling cities, but the monster truck was relentless. It seemed to know every move Jack would make, as if it could read his mind. Exhausted and terrified, Jack found himself on a deserted highway, the same one where it all began. The monster truck was gaining on him, its engine a deafening roar. With nowhere to go, Jack made a desperate decision. He drove his truck off the road and into a dense forest. The impact was brutal, but he survived. As he crawled out of the wreckage, he looked back at the highway. The monster truck was gone, vanished without a trace. But Jack knew it was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next victim. He had escaped death, but the horror of that night would haunt him forever. He was a changed man, a survivor marked by the encounter with evil. And as he looked out at the endless forest, he knew one thing for sure: he would never drive that road again. Jack emerged from the wreckage of his truck, his body aching, his mind reeling. The forest was thick and dark, a labyrinth of shadows and silence. He stumbled through the undergrowth, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The monster truck was gone, but the terror it had inflicted lingered like a phantom. Days turned into nights as Jack wandered through the wilderness. He lived off berries and rainwater, his mind consumed by the image of the monstrous vehicle. He had become a hunter, driven by a relentless need to destroy the evil that had pursued him. He started to see things, shadows that moved in the corners of his eyes, the sound of an engine revving in the distance. Paranoia gnawed at him. turning his mind into a battleground of fear and desperation. One night, as he huddled around a dying campfire, he heard it, the unmistakable sound of an engine. His heart pounded in his chest. He grabbed a fallen branch, his makeshift weapon, and crept into the darkness. The beam of his flashlight cut through the night, revealing the monstrous truck parked on a forest road. It looked abandoned, but Jack knew better. He crept closer, his breath held in his lungs. Suddenly, the truck roared to life, its headlights blinding him. Jack dropped to the ground, his heart pounding in his ears. The truck accelerated, its tires crunching on the gravel. It circled around, its headlights scanning the forest like a predator searching for prey. Jack waited until the truck was out of sight, then crept back to the road. He followed the tire tracks, his mind a whirlwind of fear and determination. He had to find a way to stop this thing, to destroy it once and for all. Days later, he stumbled upon an abandoned gas station. It was a relic of a bygone era, a place forgotten by time. Inside, he found an old toolbox filled with rusty tools. Among the junk, he found a welding torch. It was a long shot, but it was all he had. He returned to the forest, his mind focused on a plan. He would lure the monster truck to a specific location and destroy it with the welding torch. It was a dangerous gamble, but it was his only hope. He found a deserted quarry, a perfect place for his trap. He spent days preparing, welding metal spikes to the quarry floor, creating a deadly trap. When he was finished, he sat back and waited. The wait was agonizing. Days turned into nights, and still the monster truck did not appear. Jack began to doubt himself, to question the sanity of his plan. Then one night he heard it. The familiar roar of the engine echoed through the forest. His heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation. He grabbed the welding torch and waited. The monster truck emerged from the darkness, its headlights cutting through the night. It roared down the road, oblivious to the deadly trap that awaited it. Jack held his breath as the truck approached the quarry. With a sickening crunch, the truck hit the spikes, skidded to a halt, its front tires shredded. The driver, whatever or whoever it was trapped. Jack emerged from the shadows, the welding torch in his hand. The truck was silent, but he knew it was watching him. He approached the vehicle slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. The doors of the truck burst open, and a figure emerged. It was a man, or what was left of one. His face was a mask of horror, his eyes filled with a dark, inhuman hatred. A battle ensued, a desperate struggle between man and monster. Jack fought with a ferocity born of desperation. In the end, it was the welding torch that proved to be his weapon of destruction. He aimed it at the truck's fuel tank and ignited it. The truck exploded in a ball of flame, consuming the creature and its evil. As the fire raged, Jack stood back, watching the destruction of his tormentor. A sense of peace washed over him, a feeling of closure. He had faced his fear, conquered his demons, and emerged victorious. The monster was gone, and with it, the nightmare that had haunted him. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, Jack turned and walked away from the scene of destruction. He was a changed man, marked by the ordeal but alive. He had survived the horror, and in doing so, found a strength he never knew he possessed.